Hey all, and welcome to another Wheel of Time video. I did a bit of a poll on Twitter after my last video, which was my first of the cultural profile series, starting with the nation of Andor. The results of our very scientific Twitter poll said that the people overwhelmingly wanted me to do an in-depth character examination. So this video is going to be the first of my character examination series. We're going to start with one of my favorite characters in the novel, and potentially one of the best executed characters in all of fantasy, Moiraine Damodred. Now, as this is a new series, let me lay out the structure for this examination. I have broken this down to 10 sections to dive in to different aspects of Moiraine's character. The sections are as follows: history before the story, actions during the story, appearance, personality, special abilities, notable possessions, relationships, greatest moments, what happens after the story, and then overall impact and role on the story. And then at the end, I'll do a basic summary for overall arc and give my opinion about the character as a whole and the execution. Before we hop into the video though, let me throw up a spoiler rating. This video is going to carry a spoiler rating of red, meaning it will have major spoilers for the entire novel series, including the last book. If you have not completed all of the novels, watch this video at your own risk. Without further ado, let's take a look at Moiraine Damodred from the Wheel of Time. Let's start off by taking a look at Moiraine's history before the start of the novels, specifically before the start of Eye of the World. Moiraine Damodred was born in Cairhien in the year 956 of the New Age to a noble house of Damodred. Her uncle was the king of Cairhien at the time. In 972 of the New Age, Moiraine is 16 years old and she realizes that she can channel. She recognizes it for what it is and goes to her uncle's Aes Sedai advisor and begins some training. She is sent to the tower and arrives on the same day as Siuan Sanche, who quickly becomes her best friend in the tower. Technically, Moiraine is a wilder, meaning she taught herself to channel, which carries a stigma in the tower, but this is held under wraps with only a few people being aware. In 975 of the New Age, Moiraine is raised to the Accepted in 3 years, faster than anyone in the tower's history, other than Aes Sedai and her friend Siuan Sanche. In 978 of the New Age, towards the very end of the Aiel War, Moiraine and Siuan Sanche are attending to Tamra Ospenya, the Amyrlin seat at the time, and her Keeper of Chronicles, Guitarra Moroso. Guitarra Moroso has the talent of foretelling, and she gives an ominous foretelling that the dragon has been reborn on the slopes of Dragonmount and then falls over dead. The Amyrlin swears the girls to secrecy. She then announces a bounty of 100 gold marks for all of the women who recently gave birth so they can search for the dragon without drawing suspicion. She sends Moiraine and Siuan to a town called Alindair to begin collecting names along with the other Accepted. They start to keep their own names of who they believe the best candidates for the dragon reborn might be. About this time, Aes Sedai inform Moiraine that all of her uncles have passed away, including King Laemon Damodred. They begin to quiz her and Moiraine deduces that they mean to put her on the Sun Throne, something she does not want as that would keep her from pursuing the dragon reborn. Still in the same year, Moiraine is tested to be raised to the Shawl and passes, but during that test, Elaida is particularly cruel to her during the testing. So after completing the test, her and Siuan decide to prank Elaida rather than spend the night in contemplation, as is traditional, and they try to put rats in Elaida's bed. Elaida catches them and has them switched before they can do the formal ceremony to be raised to full sisters, so they are actually sworn in with sore bottoms. Elaida holds on to this all the way up until the current time of the novels. Siuan and Moiraine are excited to begin their search for the dragon reborn, but Moiraine is ordered to stay in Tar Valon so they can put her on the Sun Throne. Moiraine runs away, defying the Amyrlin's orders, and begins her search. In 979 of the New Age, Moiraine heads to Kalum in Kandor, where she first meets Codswain and some other Aes Sedai. She also meets Lan Mandragoran at this time. He throws her in a pond at first for following him, but agrees to accompany her to Kashin, which is the capital of Kandor. She disrupts a Black Aja plot in the capital with Lan, and Lan becomes her warder at this time. Sometime between this time and the next 19 years, she goes to the Eye of the World and meets Shemeshta, the Green Man. She also spends this time searching through the names of the boys that were born at the time of the foretelling. She does this up until the start of the Eye of the World. So let's pick up with events as the beginning of the Eye of the World starts. In 998 of the New Age, Moiraine travels to the Two Rivers region of Andor, seeking 3 boys who were all born within 2 weeks of each other, to find out which was born outside the village, and could have been born on Dragonmount. While in the Two Rivers, the village is attacked by Trollocs on Winter Night, and she and Lan defend the village. This prompts her to take Rand, Mat, and Perrin with her as they are all being watched by the Shadow. Egwene also tags along as she wants to become an Aes Sedai herself. Tom Merrilin agrees to accompany them too, mainly at this point to protect the boys from Moiraine. The party travels up through the Two Rivers into Baerlon, and then ultimately ends up staying in Shadar Logoth. The entire time since they left the Two Rivers, they have been chased by Shadowspawn, Drakkar, Trollocs, and Fades. While in Shadar Logoth, the Trollocs surprisingly enter the city and force the party to escape, but they are separated by Mashadar, the mist that possesses the city. Moiraine, Lan, and Nynaeve, who had caught up with the party in Baerlon, are in one party in search for the others. They eventually find Perrin and Egwene with white cloaks and rescue them and head to Caemlyn, where they meet up with Mat and Rand. It is here Moiraine realizes that the dagger that Mat carries came from Shadar Logoth, and she heals him the best that she can, but it's really just a band-aid fix. She learns of the dreams that the boys have been having about Baalzaman, and also the Eye of the World, and rather than heading to Tar Valon as was planned, she decides to head for Shinar and to go to the Eye of the World. As Shinar is very far away and they don't have much time if they are to stop the Shadow from getting there first, Moiraine takes them through the Ways, an ancient system of travel that was built back near the breaking of the world. Loyal, an Ogier, has joined the party in Caemlyn and leads them through the Ways as they reach Shinar in the city of Faldara. After spending the night in Faldara under the roof of Lord Agilmar, they set into the Blight and reach the Eye of the World. Moiraine, who has previously been here, knows that need is the secret to finding it. Once they reach the Eye of the World, they are confronted by two Forsaken, Agenor and Balthamo. Moiraine attempts to hold Agenor but is brushed aside and injured in the process. The Green Man ends up killing Balthamo and Rand kills Agenor. They discover the Dragon Banner and the Horn of Valyr as well as one of the seals of the Dark One's prison. From here, Moiraine and the party head back to Faldara where they recover. While they wait there, the Amerlin seat, Swan Sanche, comes to Faldara along with other Aes Sedai. Moiraine and the Amerlin reveal to Rand that he is the Dragon Reborn despite his protests. After the Horn of Valyr is stolen along with the dagger Mat needs to stay alive, Rand, Mat, and Perrin all decide to chase down the horn, while Moiraine leaves to meet Adalas and Vandene, who are two retired Aes Sedai. She's doing research there, and while she's doing the research, Moiraine is attacked by a Drakkar, but it is defeated by the warders. She is attempting to discover the significance of Falm, a city on Toman Head which is in a prophecy left by Padan Fain, in the dungeon in Faldara. After the attack by the Drakkar, she journeys to Falm after Rand's battle, and is present when he declares himself the Dragon Reborn. In 999 of the New Age, they make camp for the winter near the Mountains of Mist. After a Trolloc attack, Rand runs away to chase Kalandor. Moiraine follows with Perrin, Loyal, and Lan. They follow him across the world, fighting off dark hounds in Ilion. Along the way, Moiraine discovers that Samael is in Ilion himself. They eventually follow Rand to Tyr, and Moiraine is able to get inside the Stone of Tyr in time to kill Balal before he could kill Rand. Moiraine uses Balefire for the first time to kill Balal. Moiraine then helps Rand secure Tyr under his rule. While in Tyr, she goes through a door-framed ter'angreal, which she receives 3 answers to 3 questions. We don't know her exact questions or the answers, but we do know that during this time she learns at some point she will marry Tom Merrilin. She accompanies Rand to the Aiel Waste and gets permission from the Wise Ones to go to Rhuidean. She enters the ter'angreal there and gets a vision of her need to save Rand's life at the docks in Cairhien from Lanfear. From this point forward, she grows increasingly desperate to advise him and guide him, and he pushes her away more and more as she tries to control him. She finally swears to obey him if he will allow her to advise him, and he consents, and they essentially make peace. After Rand takes Cairhien, Moiraine tackles Lanfear into the redstone doorway near the docks to save his life, as Lanfear was going to kill Rand. She had foreseen all of this and had left letters for both Tom and for Rand. She is taken by the Aelfin. They grant her 3 demands but hold her and feed off her ability to channel. She sits there for almost 2 years, and in the year 1001 of the New Age, she is eventually rescued right before the last battle by Tom, Mat, and Noel, who turns out to be Jane Farstrider. Moiraine plays 2 major roles in the last battle. She first saves the meeting of the nations and the Dragon's Peace at the Fields of Marilor. She pulls all sides together and convinces Rand that he can't lead the armies, and convinces Egwene that the seals need to be broken, citing the prophecies of the dragon. She also marries and bonds Tom Merrilin at this time as well. She is then taken by Rand to Shea Ghul and is one of the 2 women he has bonded to him as he seals the Dark One's prison, with the other woman being Nynaeve. She thus fulfills her life's goal of helping the Dragon Reborn make it to the last battle. In regards to Moraine's appearance, she is from Cairhien, and just like the others from her country, she is quite short. She's 5'2" and very, very slim. Her hair is dark and falls to her shoulders in waves, hanging out in ringlets. She has large dark eyes and very fair skin. Those that look at her face have trouble placing an age to her due to her Aes Sedai agelessness. She has the face of a very young woman, but her eyes say that she has both age and wisdom beyond her years. Moiraine is described as having a very melodious voice, unlike mine. In regards to her dress, she tends to wear shades of blue when she can, and is typically always seen in very nice silks with a velvet cloak. She also wears a Cairhien Kisiera. It is a blue stone suspended on her forehead with a gold chain. The blue stone sparkles in the light. Moiraine is often described as cool and has a cold demeanor. Much of this can be attributed to her calm and collected personality. She exudes coolness no matter what the pressure and does not appear to ever get rattled outside of a few encounters with Rand. She is very driven and the one character throughout the series that always seems to know her purpose. She is very singular in her vision in finding and guiding the Dragon Reborn. As she is Blue Aja, she is driven by causes and hers cannot be more necessary. She is naturally a good person but will do anything necessary to achieve her goals, even if it has unsavory side effects. This has taken her away from the rest of the White Tower when being independent has suited her needs. Her goals are bigger than the goals and politics of the White Tower. She is also very calculating and strategic. She is able to lay plans in motion that are 3 and 4 steps ahead of everyone else. One of her greatest strengths is never becoming too attached to a plan. Rather, she is able to improvise as she knows her end goal and doesn't get caught up in the moment. She also strives to know as much information about the world, prophecies, and the future as possible. She will learn anything necessary to help her achieve her goals. Moiraine is Aes Sedai, so she is capable of channeling the One Power and has been trained in its use. She ranks fairly highly among Aes Sedai in strength with the power. Her strength level is recorded as 13, which made her one of the strongest Aes Sedai alive at the beginning of the novels. Only Elaida, Swan, Lelaine, and Ramonda could match her in strength with the power, with Cadsuane being the only Aes Sedai stronger than her, and she was retired. This all changed when Elaine Tricond, Egwene Alvir, and Nynaeve Almera came to the White Tower. They were all 3 significantly stronger than Moiraine. Later, other channelers were found outside of the Aes Sedai that could surpass Moiraine in strength as well. Regardless, she was considered one of the stronger Aes Sedai of her age. Moiraine had a very strong talent for healing despite not being from the Yellow Aja. She was also very strong at cloud dancing, which is controlling the weather and weather effects. Moiraine knew a few weaves that were unknown to other Aes Sedai. She learned an eavesdropping trick when she was first learning to channel that allowed her to listen to others with the power from a distance. She also knew the illegal weave for balefire, piecing together how to do it from old books. She would later use this on Balal, killing one of the Forsaken. She would have been strong enough with the One Power to travel, but disappeared before she could learn the weave. Some of her strongest feats with the power were creating an earthquake and a wall of fire large enough to kill hundreds of Trollocs near Shadar Logoth. She also held the Forsaken Agenor for a time with the power, and killed Balal. In regards to her other talents and abilities outside the One Tower, she was a very deft tactician and planner. She was able to manipulate people into doing what she wished with great ease. She was also born and raised in the aristocracy of Cairhien. She was very deft and knowledgeable at the great game of houses and the political maneuvering and manipulation that was required to play at politics, and she used this to Rand's advantage in Tyr and tried to teach him to rule before her disappearance into the doorframe ter'angreal. Moiraine possesses a couple of items throughout the series that helped her in her quest. First was the dark ivory carving of a woman in flowing robes that she possessed from the start of the series. This is a medium level angreal that can amplify Moraine's ability to channel. She used this angreal up to her capture by the Aelfin. She also had her Kisiera, which was a blue stone that hung from chains on her forehead. This was not an item of power, but it served as a focus point for her eavesdropping weave that she used throughout the series. Later, she is given a very strong bracelet angreal that is almost strong enough to be a Sa angreal. Despite her severely lowered natural strength at the end of the novels due to her imprisonment from the Aelfin, use of this angreal makes her far stronger than she was before. Although Moiraine has many strong relationships through the series, we are going to focus on the 4 I believe to be her strongest. Lan Mandragoran has been Moraine's warder from when she was first raised to Aes Sedai. He has saved her life many times and has been her partner in her quest to not only find the Dragon Reborn, but then to guide him until the last battle. They have a unity of purpose most of the time, that allows them to stay focused and trust each other. They have always been a very cohesive team throughout the years. I believe a lot of this is due to Lan's respect for her and what she's about. Being a Borderlander, he understood that death is lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain. And he could see this in action with her. She gave up a throne, wealth, and power to pursue a greater good, and he could get behind the same quest as he was already fighting a war he could not win after his land was destroyed and taken by the Blight when he was just a newborn. Siuan Sanche was Moraine's closest friend in the Tower and co-conspirator in their mission to find the Dragon Reborn and guide him to the last battle. When they first met, Moiraine assumed Siuan would defer to her as Moiraine was highborn, the niece of the king of Cairhien, and Siuan was simply a fisherman's daughter from Tyr. But as they became friends, Moiraine found herself deferring to Siuan. Moiraine eventually came to the realization that Siuan was born to lead. Also, while they were in the Tower, they became pillow friends, which in the White Tower basically meant they had a homosexual relationship. Neither of the two viewed themselves as lesbians. It was a way for them to satisfy their libidos when they were kept away from men in the Tower. This is a somewhat common practice among novices and accepted in the White Tower. They were both present for Gitara Morosa's foretelling of the birth of the Dragon Reborn, and they knew of the existence of the Black Aja from their raising to full Aes Sedai. Initially, they were both going to go searching around the world for the Dragon Reborn, but politics in the Tower pulled Siuan in, and she was placed at the head of the Eyes and Ears network for the Blue Aja. They decided between the two of them that Moiraine would travel the world searching, and Siuan would search in the Tower using the Eyes and Ears. When Siuan was elevated to Amyrlin in 988 of the New Age, she was more and more distant from contact for Moiraine, but was able to support her more politically in the Tower. The two women did not spend much time together after they split after being raised, with most sisters other than Elaida even forgetting that they were friends. But both focused on their mission, and like Moraine's relationship with Lan, they had an understanding and trust that they would see the greater good of helping find the dragon and lead him to the last battle over all else. When Moiraine learns of Siuan's stilling and supposed execution, she does not cry as she laments that they both knew where their path could lead, and Moiraine at this point loses most of her remaining faith in the White Tower, telling Rand that he should not trust any Aes Sedai other than Elaine, Egwene, and Nynaeve. Siuan represented the only trust that she could have in the Tower, and without it, Moiraine became more and more separated from the Tower and on her own. Moraine's relationship with Tom Merrilin does not receive a ton of page time in the novels, but it is significant nonetheless. Moiraine has a very high level of respect for Tom Merrilin, dating back as far as the first book. She seems to respect skill in the Great Game of Houses and those with knowledge, and he shows both of these traits. She sees him for what he is. That is, he is more than a simple gleeman, and her level of respect for him grows throughout the series. He harbors much resentment towards Aes Sedai at the beginning of the series, hatred for what was done to his nephew Owen when he was gentled for channeling the One Power without being taken to the Tower as normal. He was then left to his village in the fear they had of him, and even after being gentled, he died before Tom could get there to help. You can see this resentment when Tom decides to accompany the group leaving Emond's Field at the very beginning of the novel, vowing to protect the boys from Moiraine. Gradually and very subtly, you get to see the mutual respect between the two of them growing. Moiraine eventually learns that she will marry Tom Merrilin, and she knows he must be one of the people to rescue her from the land of the Aelfin. They are finally able to act on the mutual respect and marry in a memory of light, and Tom becomes her warder. But this is a relationship that felt real to me, as they both seem to be two birds of a feather, and it felt like one of the more realistic pairings in the books. One of the few criticisms you can give Robert Jordan is the way that he wrote romantic relationships. A lot of them feeling kind of bland and out of nowhere. But this one felt more real to me than the others, basically because they seem to gel, and they both seem to have that mutual respect that you see in the background throughout the series. The last relationship I want to focus on for Moiraine is that of Rand. I love the dynamic here, and the back and forth these two go through feels so realistic to me, and the conclusion is so very satisfying. Moiraine starts the series as being Rand's introduction to the wider world, and his dependence on her is very obvious. He gradually becomes more and more suspicious of her, and of Aes Sedai in general, as she kind of nudges him closer and closer to his destiny. As he comes to terms with what he is and his power increases, the dynamic between the two of them changes, with Rand growing in power and her proportionally shrinking in power. Rand keeps her at arm's length due to her mistrust of her motives, and sometimes he's right to do this. She is focused on the endgame, but is really just her version of what that looks like, and she guides him how she sees fit. As he drifts farther and farther away from her, she decides to submit to him and stay near him so that she could advise him, knowing that her time was short, and she also knew what would happen in Cairhien with Lanfear and the Redstone Doorframe. So she crams last-minute advice into him before she dies, and he very much feels her loss. When he contemplates later in the series the people that have died for him, Moiraine is the one that he constantly feels the most pain for. He realizes after she is gone the support and strength that he gave her, as well as the direction. He did not always like her methods and her coldness, but he realizes after she is gone that he needed her. He is literally overjoyed and falls to his knees when she reappears at the Fields of Merrilor in A Memory of Light prior to the last battle. You can see the level of respect for her that he carries, and she seems so proud of who he has become. Moiraine is known as a legend by the end of the novels, mostly due to her harrowing achievements throughout the time of the story. First among her greatest moments in the series is the final chapters of The Eye of the World, when she faces down two Forsaken, Aginor and Balthamo, holds Aginor with the power. She is injured in the process, but buys time for Rand to fight Aginor and to reach the Eye of the World itself. She is fearless, and at this time it is thought that Forsaken are borderline godlike, and her courage and determination to protect Rand and the rest of the party, knowing that she would be overpowered, and more than likely killed, is a good example of her character. She has another moment of courage facing the Forsaken in the Dragon Reborn. She learns of a trap that Balal has laid for Rand and manages to reach the Stone of Tyr in time to kill Balal with balefire. At this point, no one other than Rand has defeated a Forsaken, and she becomes the first person of the age to prove that the Forsaken are not invincible. One of my favorite and one of the more heartbreaking moments of the series is when Moiraine tackles Lanfear through the door-framed ter'angreal at the docks in Cairhien. The foreshadowing to this point in the book made you think that something was coming, but the loss of Moiraine as a character was difficult, not only for the characters, but also for you as the reader. Again, this is a great example of her putting the greater cause above herself. She demonstrates selflessness over and over again throughout the novels, but this is probably the best example. She knew she had to be there or Rand would die, so she sacrificed herself for him. And my favorite Moiraine moment is her return at the Fields of Merrilor. The rescue by Mat, Tom, and Noel was great as well, but seeing her reunion with Rand, Egwene, and even Nynaeve gives you all sorts of warm fuzzies. Rand falls to his knees, and even Nynaeve, who seemingly hated Moiraine earlier in the series, embraces her so warmly. It seems everyone realizes after it all settles what she had known from the very beginning, that the end game was what was important. Obviously, we don't get to see what happens after the events of the Wheel of Time in the final book, A Memory of Light, but I think I can give a few thoughts on what might happen afterwards with Moiraine. First and foremost, Moiraine will be thought of as an absolute legend in not only the White Tower, but also the rest of the world. She is responsible for so much in the series, but facing down 4 Forsaken, defeating 2 of them, returning from death essentially, and then being part of the circle that sealed the Dark One's prison, will cement her as one of the most famous people of the next age of the world. I do believe her future with the Aes Sedai will be uncertain though. She is barely strong enough anymore to even make it to Accepted after her strength in the One Power was sapped by the Aelfin. Because of her lower strength, and more importantly the fact that her life's quest and goal is now fulfilled, I think she retires early and either advises Elaine or just lives out her days with Tom. I do think she will be able to keep her bracelet ter'angreal as she did earn it while in the world of the Aelfin. As it goes with fantasy writing and with typical fantasy tropes, Moiraine plays a fairly vital role for us as the source of exposition for the world as our characters move through it. We get to see her tell us about the history of the land, introduce us to new cultures, introduce us to the magic system for the Wheel of Time, and we also get to learn its rules and the ways in which the complex system of weaving the One Power actually works. She plays the Gandalf or Merlin role from traditional fantasy, but where she differs from that is she has a changing role to the rest of the characters in the series. Moiraine herself does not have much character progression throughout the series in regards to her arc, as when we meet her she is basically a fully fleshed out character. We just get to learn more and more about her as the books pass, as she's just solid and cool throughout and has the same courage and determination at the beginning of the novels as we see her display at the end. Where we really see her story shine though is when she passes the exposition phase of the books, as she has an ever-changing role to the other characters and the tables kind of turn, where she starts off as being the one they need, but later on they increase in power and she proportionally seems to be less and less needed, until the very end where they realize they needed her all along. In regards to her impact on the story, she can in some ways be considered the hero of the Wheel of Time. Sure, Rand, Mat, Perrin, Egwene, Elaine, and Nynaeve all play their respective roles, with Rand obviously playing the largest, but none of them would have made it to where they were without her determination to find them, her perseverance when it seemed like everything was stacked against them, and her unwavering faith in what she was doing. In conclusion, Moiraine Damodred is one of my favorite characters, not only in the Wheel of Time, but in all of fantasy literature. She is the embodiment of a trope, but with some interesting differences to the traditional wise wizard character and expositor of the backstory. She is, in my opinion, the best written character for Robert Jordan. She has the most consistent arc and personality of all of the characters in the Wheel of Time. She's only in the books for a limited time, but her presence is felt in every novel, and none of the events would have happened without her influence. So that's it, guys, my character examination of Moiraine Damodred. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know if there's anything that I missed. Also, if there's another character you want me to do, let me know in the comments. I am still running a contest to help get the channel going, guys, here, so I'm giving away a free copy of the limited edition of The Eye of the World, popping up on the screen. I will do a drawing of my first 100 subscribers, and we'll get the book shipped out to you wherever you live. All you have to do is subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment below. Hey, thanks everyone, and I hope you're enjoying the channel. Take care.
Tinker in the kitchen with a job of work to do. Mistress up above, slipping on a robe of blue. She prances down the staircase, a fancy oh so free, crying, Tinker, oh dear Tinker, won't you mend a pot for me?